So in this video, I'm going to be giving you every single bit of information, every single thing that we know about the Knights of the Old Republic remake. So without further ado, let's get straight into the information. And first and foremost, I think, is exclusivity. This is something that so many people are bringing up, so many people are frustrated about, and listen, I understand. Console exclusivity doesn't do much for the players, but it does do a lot for the companies that are buying these licenses. And I don't think people realise how much exclusives matter to certain companies. Which is why PlayStation buying the Knights of the Old Republic remake as an exclusive at launch it's a big deal for Sony. Knights of the Old Republic is one of the most influential RPGs of all time, and to get that just on Sony's platform, even if it is a timed exclusive, is massive for them. And I think a lot of misconception is coming around the idea of exclusivity. What exactly do PlayStation and Aspyr mean when they say console launch exclusive? Many people are taking this as a timed exclusive, and it makes a lot of sense to actually believe that. While at the same time, a lot of outlets are saying that it is a console exclusive, so where exactly is the truth here? Many gaming insiders in this industry are claiming that it is a timed exclusive. Many people on Twitter are going on about how it is an exclusive and that Xbox fans should stay mad. But listen, if you are explicitly trying to promote something for your platform, you do not call it a console launch exclusive. Yes, I know everybody's getting worked up because it's saying remade for PS5, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it won't come to other platforms. If you are a company and you're trying to promote something as your IP, you do not call it a console launch exclusive. For example, you hear about all of the other PlayStation exclusives such as Spider-Man and God of War and Uncharted and these things. They're not called console launch exclusives, they are called PlayStation exclusives. So this is the reason why I and many other people do believe that this is a timed exclusive. Now, how long that timed exclusivity will last, nobody knows. Most of the time it's usually around a year, but with Sony so involved in the development of this game, it's quite possible it will be longer. Of course, I could be wrong, and could so many other people. However, for now, I would keep your hopes up with the wording of this, and I would err on the edge of it being a timed exclusive more than an actual console exclusive, and that as an Xbox player, you will get this game at some point in the future. Next up is something that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, and that is the actual budget of this game. This game is not low budget. This game is ridiculously high budget, and let me clarify why. Aspyr has a $70 million budget for the Knights of the Old Republic remake, and in comparison, The Witcher 3 had a $90 million budget, the Tomb Raider reboot had a $100 million budget, Battlefield every year has around a $50 million budget, and Mass Effect Andromeda had an $80 million budget. Now, to put this even further into context, this $70 million that's quoted as the budget for the Knights of the Old Republic remake comes directly from their parent company, Embracer Group. This does not take into consideration Sony's financial obligations to the exclusive license. If Sony are actually betting on this game being one of their killer apps, they are going to invest into the highest possible quality game that they can possibly get from Aspyr. So on top of the $70 million budget that comes directly from Aspyr themselves, or more so the Embracer Group that owns them, how much money is PlayStation putting into this? We could be looking at a game that is over $100 million in budget, which is absolutely astronomical. Like I said, The Witcher 3, which is regarded as one of the best games ever made, had a budget of only $20 million more than the base budget of the KOTOR Remake. Yes, of course, we have to take into account that CG Projekt Red, they're from Poland, and Poland is a lot cheaper than Austin, Texas, but the point still remains, this game has a huge budget, which means there is a lot of investment and a lot of hope resting on the KOTOR Remake's shoulders to be a success. Now let's have a little chat about the people actually working on this game. Now, I'm not going to name names, but I am going to give you a small list of companies that the team at Aspyr have worked for in the past. These are Riot Games, who owns the League of Legends franchise, BioWare themselves, who made the original Knights of the Old Republic, Avalanche, who made the Just Cause series, Gearbox, who made Borderlands, Bluepoint, who made the Demon's Souls remake, Bethesda, you all know who they are, Epic, you know who they are too, Ubisoft, and Remedy, who made the very critically acclaimed Control and Quantum Break. Now, there are even more that I haven't even named here, but I just couldn't be bothered to go through them all. So you can see that this team is full of industry veterans. Yes, Aspyr themselves may be new when it comes to making big budget video games, but the team working at Aspyr, they have all worked for extremely high-end games companies at the top of their game, and that's a really good sign. So many of these creatives have left huge companies with huge IPs and huge repertoires to come and work for Aspyr and for the KOTOR Remake. Yes, there may be writers that you find controversial, there may be writers that don't necessarily hold your ideals, but what cannot be shaken is the fact that so many of this team are very, very experienced, have worked for some of the biggest games companies in the world at the top of their professions, and that should really be giving everybody some hope here. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is how long has this game actually been in the works? Now, when they say in the interview that this game is very early on in development, I do believe them. However, this game has been in pre-production for like 2 years at this point. Pre-production started in early 2020, and actual development started earlier this year. How do I know this? Well, I'm not going to give all my secrets away, but am I 100% certain on this? I'm not going to say that I am, but I'm around 80% sure. Now, if we compare this to other remakes, Demon's Souls was in development for 4 years until it released, Resident Evil 2 Remake was in development for 4 years until it released, and the Final Fantasy Remake was in development for 5 years before it released. So where could this possibly mean we'll see the Knights of the Old Republic remake? I don't know, depending on the size of the project, the scope of the project. We'll either see it in 2023 for the 20th anniversary of Knights of the Old Republic, or we may see like the game for the first time, or it may be as late as 2025. Remakes usually have 3 to 5 year developmental cycle when they're finally in active development, like KOTOR is now, so you can make an educated guess based on that information. So let's talk about the actual game itself. What is the difference between a remaster and a remake? A remaster is a simple touch-up of textures and maybe in-game sound and audio, and generally they don't change anything. Remasters simply add higher quality things to something that's already been established. A remake, on the other hand, is a complete and utter, from the ground up, recreation of something that's already come before. Now, 2 good examples of what a remaster would be are The Last of Us and the Metal Gear Solid HD collection. The Last of Us was originally released for the PlayStation 3, it was then re-released on the PS4 with higher quality textures and just general better fidelity, and the same goes for the Metal Gear Solid HD collection. They took a game from the early 2000s, they re-released it 10 years later, all they did was up the textures, up the visual fidelity, add a little bit of content that wasn't in the base game, and voila, they resold it as a remaster. A remake, on the other hand, now that's serious. It is completely and utterly designed to be the same game as what come before, however, it's built from a different perspective, they add new things, they provide new things, but the general experience is the same. The Demon's Souls remake on PS5 that nobody can play because no one can buy a PS5, and another example would be Final Fantasy. I've never played that one myself, but I've seen a lot of videos, and it's actually quite a high point for remakes. The point is, a remake can be anything. We could see new gameplay, we could see new story, we could see many new things that weren't in the original game, but one thing is certain, is that the game will follow the same structure as what came before. Everybody that's trying to tell me they're going to change Revan, they're going to change this, they fundamentally cannot change this in a remake unless they are rebooting it. If you look at Resident Evil 2, for example, the game is essentially the exact same game as what came out decades before. But what did change were all of the negative aspects of the original that didn't hold up to time. They changed the camera angles, They changed a lot of the character models to be a lot more higher quality. They added new voices, they added new audio. The game was legitimately built from the ground up, but still followed that same structure. The developers have already came out and explicitly said that they are following the same story. They're following what made the original Knights of the Old Republic great, but they're reintroducing it with new technology innovation and new graphical fidelity. So try not to be too worked up on that the game is going to change so much to the point where it's not recognizable anymore, because that's not the case. Like I said, if they were going to do that, this would be a reboot or a reimagining, not a remake. Additionally, we've also heard a lot now that many of the original voice actors are actually coming back to work on the game, which reassures us that many of the characters are still going to be present. So Jennifer Hale is the only confirmed one at the moment, but we can assume that many of the characters for Juhani and Jolie and Karth, Raphael Sabaj, I'd love to hear him again. All of these guys are going to be coming back to reprise their roles. However, before everybody rages in a few years' time that Canderous doesn't sound the same, unfortunately the voice actor for Canderous, John Saigon, passed away a few years ago. So that role will obviously be cast by somebody new. Another thing just to add, they have said many times now that they want players to re-experience, or new players to experience, this iconic, legendary story. If they were going to change it, you wouldn't be experiencing an old story. So that again gives us a little bit of cemented hope that this game is indeed going to be following the same structure. Now, next up is the age-old question. Is this game going to be Star Wars Legends or Star Wars Canon? When Disney took over Star Wars, it's been pretty clear that what they've done is try to create one new collective universe, and Legends is now considered an alternate universe from the canon universe we have now. Now, before you go, well, Legends was alternate universe anyway, listen, there was so much more Legends than there was official canon at that time, so Legends was essentially canon to most people. There is a lot of miscommunication at the moment between Lucasfilm and the actual writers of the blogs that have been making these sort of press releases, and this is strange to me. Matt Martin, who is part of the story group, has basically claimed that this is Star Wars Legends by pointing towards a very specific line in a blog about Knights of the Old Republic where it says that KOTOR is a Legends storytelling, but at the same time, the writer of that blog has come out and explicitly said that when he was talking about Legends storytelling, he was talking about the original game and not the remake. So at the moment, we really don't know whether this is canon or Legends. I can only imagine that if it was canon, then they would be changing things, and if it was Legends, then they can keep it practically the same. But truth be told, the point is, we just do not know. At the moment, it's kind of in its own little bracket. We don't know if it's Legends or canon, and I assume we will learn more in the future. Now I'm going to do something completely different, and I'm going to do like a little question of the day thing, and I want you to comment down below, what kind of gameplay do you want from the KOTOR remake? Do you want to see a complete reimagining with higher quality action RPG gameplay, sort of like Final Fantasy? Or do you want them to keep that original turn-based D&D kind of gameplay from the original? Let me know. There really isn't a better time to be a Knights of the Old Republic fan, so I would love for you to join my community, hit that subscribe button, come and follow me on Twitter, and join my Discord server because I would absolutely love to have you there. Also, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you want to support the channel a little bit further, perhaps take a look at my Patreon. All links are in the description below. I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, may the Force be with you. Always.